What's going on, everyone? You listen to Bull Central here. Hope you're all doing well. So guys, I have something a little different for you today, and this actually was a suggestion from one of my subscribers, which, by the way, if you ever have a video suggestion, feel free to leave it in the comments. I'm always open to new ideas and thoughts on video content, but when this idea was initially suggested to me, I wasn't really sure if it had enough to really be interesting, but then when I did a little bit of research, I actually was able to uncover some fun facts. And so with the preseason starting tomorrow, not a ton of news or updates coming in, I figured why not? So I hope you guys like it. So as you saw from the title of this video, retired jerseys of the Bulls franchise is what we're talking about, and which jerseys are currently retired and which ones should potentially be retired. So now, just to level set, the Bulls only have 4 retired jerseys in franchise history, and those are the number 4 for Jerry Sloan, number 10 for Bob Love, and of course number 33 and 23 for Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan. So right off the bat, it should be made clear that the criteria for the Bulls that the Bulls use in order to have your jersey retired is pretty high. In its over 55 years of existence, they have only retired 4 jerseys. So let's talk about the criteria of retired jerseys and how these are generally often determined across the league, or at least from my perspective. Now obviously a player has to have played their most important years with the organization and contributed to the organization's winning in some fashion. Another factor is if the player was drafted or retired with the franchise, and of course if they have played the majority of their career with that organization. Now, I also think statistics and other accolades have to be factored into this. MVPs, finals MVPs, all-star appearances, all-NBA selections, and then just general statistics and where they stand on the franchise's all-time leaderboard. So for the 4 jerseys that are currently retired, the number 4 hanging in the rafters at United Center, do they fit this criteria? Well, for Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, this isn't even a question. Their numbers should, without a doubt, be retired. They played most of their careers with the Bulls, multiple all-star selections. They led the Chicago Bulls in almost all statistical categories to this day at number 1, number 2. Oh, and yeah, they also won 6 championships and brought a dynasty to Chicago. Yeah, those numbers for sure should be retired. Now, for Bob Love and Jerry Sloan, if I look at their overall numbers, they're pretty solid. Sloan played 10 seasons with the Bulls, a 2-time All-Star, a 4-time first-team All-Defensive player. His numbers weren't crazy. He averaged 14.7 points per game and 7.7 rebounds. He played 696 games for the Bulls, which is 4th most among all Bulls players. So I guess I'll give Sloan the nod to have his jersey retired. It's just hard for me when assessing the level of play from those old days when the competition was so much weaker than it has been post-shot clock era. But I'm okay with his jersey being retired because I'm sure at the time he was the Bulls' first major star, and really likely was until MJ came onto the scene. Now for Bob Love, this one is a little bit harder for me. He did play 9 seasons with the Bulls, a total of 592 games, which is 8th most for the franchise. He was a 3-time All-Star, and his numbers sure were good. I guess my thing is when you go to a team stadium and you look up into the rafters to see who has been retired, you generally think, yes, that player is known for what he did for this team, for this organization. And I just don't know if I can really say that about Bob Love or even Jerry Sloan for that matter. I feel like when people think of the Chicago Bulls, it isn't those guys. But anyway, like I said, those were probably the franchise's first major players, and I think the criteria to retire one's jerseys at that time was obviously just much less. Now, what about the players that maybe should have their numbers retired by the Bulls? Bulls have gone through their struggles and haven't had that many players to really write home about that you can definitively say, yes, their jersey should be retired. I know some people might be thinking, well, what about Dennis Rodman? And I do agree to an extent because obviously he was a huge piece to that second three-peat. He has 3 rings with the Bulls, but guys, he only played 3 seasons with them. And obviously he was incredible in those 3 seasons, but it's just not long enough of a playing career with the Bulls to retire the number 91, in my view. Now, you could potentially say Horace Grant, Tony Kukoc, but even those guys I think are probably a little bit of a stretch. Again, both didn't play that much time with the Bulls, although they were also big pieces to the championships that were won. Horace for that first three-peat and Tony for the second three-peat. And then in between the Jordan era and before we get into the Rose era, there really aren't that many players who have played consistently for a long amount of time and contributed to winning on the Bulls for any significant awards and achievements to go along with that. But with all that being said, I do think there are 2, maybe 3 other players whose numbers should be retired, and I actually think they will at some point in the future. So I'll start with the questionable one, and this likely won't happen because it probably would have happened if they were going to retire this number, and that's the number 12 for Kirk Hinrich. Now, I know what you're thinking. Kirk Hinrich, Captain Kirk of all people, you think his number should be retired? Well, first of all, I don't think it should be retired. I'm just saying there is a case that it could be made for his jersey to be retired, and it's mainly because he played most of his career with the Bulls. Bulls fans love the guy. He's third in most played games behind MJ and Scottie. He leads the Bulls in all-time three-pointers made, and by a pretty significant margin for that matter. He's third in all-time in assists and steals, only behind MJ and Scottie, and 8th all-time in scoring. Now, I know Hinrich never played a significant role in the years he was with the Bulls. He never made an all-star team or anything like that. He was more of a role player, but he was a big piece in those mid-2000s Bulls that made a little run under Scott Skiles, and then again as Rose backup, or sometimes he played shooting guard as well, in the years under Tom Thibodeau. But at the end of the day, it would be hard to justify retiring his number, although he means a lot to the city of Chicago and Bulls fans. I just don't think his jersey should be retired. I don't think there's enough there to really drive that home. Now, for the other 2, I'm sure you guys likely already guessed it and who they are, and I think it's possible both of these numbers get retired once they exit their playing days, and that's Derrick Rose and Joakim Noah. Now, first of all, between these 2, I actually think Noah deserves it more than Rose, and that's because Noah has played significantly more games for the Bulls than Rose has, and he is beloved by the fans in Chicago and what he has done for the community. Now, don't get me wrong, the same goes for Rose. I mean, the guy is from Chicago. He won an MVP with the Bulls. He made the Bulls relevant and exciting again. I'm just wondering how much of his injuries and missed time with the Bulls would actually impact his chances of having the number 1 retired once he finishes his career. Now, it does sound like Noah is on the brink of retirement, and I think it would be amazing if the Bulls signed him to a one-day contract so he could end his career as a Bull. And that's really more symbolic than anything. But I hope we see the number 13 retired one day just because of what Noah brought to the Bulls organization. His hustle, his tenacity, his grit, always leaving it out on the floor, giving it his all. And I'll admit, I'm a bit biased. Noah is one of my favorite Bulls players of all time. Rose is too. I just really love Noah because he always just got me so energized watching the Bulls play in those years that he was with the team. Anyway, guys, hope you found this interesting. I know we're all just waiting for the season to start, and this is probably more some filler content, if you will, but thought I would share my take. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, anything I missed, or players that you think should be considered. Enjoy the Bulls' first preseason game tomorrow. As always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.